Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for giving us your time today. We're excited to be here with some experts in the world of transnational education and Vietnam specifically. My name is Audrey Duhame. I'm a member of the Acumen team based in North America, currently on the road in India at API, and it's a lovely time to be with my international colleagues. Transnational education is on everybody's mind, and so this is such a timely webinar. Um, I will be your moderator today, in which case, if you have any questions, I request that you pop them into the Q&A. There is a question and answer feature over the course of the chat. I'll be monitoring that. I might type you some responses as possible. And and otherwise, I will leave some questions for our panelists to address towards the end. We do have a great set of scripted questions, but we do encourage your engagement, and we'll get to them towards, the latter 20-minute or the last 20 minutes of our time together. From there, it is my pleasure to actually introduce Cecilia Pereira Yates, my Acumen colleague, who will be our moderator for the discussion here today. C comes to us with 30 years of experience in international education. She's a recognized leader in this space of transnational education, as she's worked extensively with the UK higher ed sector to develop and implement strategies for institutional growth and expansion. She's shaped long-term sustainable TNE initiatives, from international recruitment support to the development and management of completely overseas education ventures. She began her work in this world of transnational education in 1999, facilitating the development of articulation agreements. And in 2006, she had one of her greatest projects ever to get involved in the EduCity project in Malaysia, one of the first regional global education hubs. So it is with that context that it is my pleasure to pass it over to her to take you through the rest of today's discussion. See?
Thank you, Audrey. I think I always feel really old, and you would have seen me just pull a face because I do feel old in this, and Bang always reminds me that I'm vintage. So let's just keep it there. I am so happy that I can moderate this session, and I just want to reiterate what Audrey said. This is a really informal chat that we're having, and we're talking about a really important topic, which is TNE. I think I just want to start off by just giving you a glimpse of what I think TNE is. For me, my experience of TNE started way back in 1998, and that was during the Southeast Asian tiger economies fell, the currency crash. It impacted a lot on international student mobility and the demand for overseas education. And I think my first articulation agreement I put together was in 1999. And what I find is that TNE is very cyclical. And so now it's such an important part of universities' diversification in their global engagement strategies. So with that, I want to start off our webinar today by asking my colleagues to introduce themselves. So can I start with you, Val?
Thank you, C. And to keep it origin as well, my name is Vang and I am from Vietnam. I am the country director for Acumen in the Vietnam office.
Thanks, Val. Miss Hien?
Good evening, everyone, and I think good morning from other people people in the other planet. My name is Hian Lee, the Business Development Manager from Australian Embassy here in Hanoi.
Thank you, Miss Hien. Helen?
Yes, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. So my name is Hương. You can call me Helen. Currently I take in the position of Deputy Head for International Relations and Project Management at Ho Chi Minh City University of Technology, located in Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. Thank you very much for participating.
Thank you, Helen. So let's kick off with the first question, and this is to you, Bang. What do you see as the key drivers of TNE in Vietnam today?
Well, that's actually many drivers that I can say. But one thing that I normally looking at is looking at from a marketing point of view. That I normally only looking at between the supply and the demand. Are there any other demands in the market, and are there any supply? So that's maybe the first thing that I mentioned here. The second driver of it is the demographics of the country. We are at the young populations, and I know that this look, you read it everywhere in the world in any newspaper, keeping saying that Vietnam is, having a young population, and that's basically the fuel for any, um, good or any opportunities for business, and including education as well. We are also a growing middle class. There was a statistic saying by 2026, 30% of our population comes from a middle income households. So, and this expansion. And I think that somewhere they also said by 2050, we're going to be 50% of our population will be, rich to the middle income household. Um, the third one, driver that I would say here is political environment. Um, we are at, I would say, an interesting time in the world globally. Things happening in Australia, things happening in the US, but right here, I can see that, there is a stable environment where, the high table, I will keep it that way, have a clear driven that keep the country stable, keep the economy continuous to grow, and creating opportunities for everybody. So I think that those are the three drivers that I can think of at the moment for Vietnam, for TNE in Vietnam.
Thank you, Bang. Helen, how do Vietnamese universities and policymakers view TNE partnerships?
Yes, I would like to answer these questions based on our university's concept. So our university started the TNE program in 2008 with our partners, and then we have our partner in Malaysia, and in 2016, we have another partner from France. So firstly is that this is the opportunity for our students to access to higher education from other countries. And this is the opportunity for the Vietnamese university to enhance the capacity building and also to learn about the operations, the quality of tours, how to build a program, and how to develop and teach our students as well. So this is our key concept. This one is to give the access to higher education, more access to our students to higher education. And
Sorry
second,
to interrupt. I'm
yes,
being very rude right now. I apologize. But your audio is breaking up just a little. Could you potentially speak a little more loudly directly into your microphone? We're struggling to get everything, all of your tidbits of wisdom.
yes, is it better?
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Yes. Sorry for that. So moving back, that just back to the concept of our university. So we started the TNE programs in 2008 with the first partner from US, and then Malaysia, and then French in 2016. And across that, we are in consideration and also in negotiation with other university as well to enhance the TNE activities. But the objective the Vietnamese universities from the TNE initiative is to first is to enhance the access, to increase the access for the student from higher educations from foreign universities, because you know that not every student can go abroad and study, yes, on their financial conditions. And secondly is to enhance our capacity building. So it's purpose to promote this help us to know how to operate other program as well as about quality assurance, about quality standard. Yes.
Thank you, Helen. I think we're still having some problem with the audio, so I'll give you some time to sort that out, perhaps. But Bang, I just want to pick up on a couple of things I could hear Helen say, and one of it was to increase access, and the other one was to enhance diversity. Bang, do you wanna pick up on that? Is that something that in your experience you've seen Vietnamese universities wanting to look at?
Oh, definitely. Um, you know that during my time doing TNE in Vietnam, and I can say that back in 2012 even up until now, the one thing that I realized is that there is a big shift in diversity between diversification of the Vietnamese universities. I can say that, in the past, let's say over 10 years before, they would say they will welcome any university have come to them with an open arm. These days, we basically say, well, we only aim to meet with people with university that coming from a top 500 in the world. And if you are out of that ranking, as long as you have a subjects or faculties within that 500. So you can see immediately there is a big shift in terms of, we look into the quality of it. In terms of another diversification we also see is the country-wise.
Mm,
And so you can easily see a Vietnamese university coming in and said, well, we have, some Australian universities. What we want now is New Zealand, or what we want
mm,
now is UK. And then they also say, well, on the other hand, we already have some IT programs. Now we want to go for some engineering program, but it has to come from that specific countries.
mm,
So throughout our work and throughout our, work with our partners within Acumen as well, I talk to many Vietnamese university, and that is exactly what they are looking for, diversification. Um, I think another piece of it is they will also looking at, an enhance into their ranking as well,
mm,
their own rankings, because,
yeah,
you can easily listen to some Vietnamese university leaders saying they want to become a hub where students from Southeast Asia, coming over and study there. And that is part of what we identify as well earlier in 2024, right? That there is a
yeah,
rising intra-mobility between Asia. And so a lot of Vietnamese universities also catch that trend and they say, well, this is also what we want as a university to diversify ourselves, not only having a campus full of Vietnamese students, right, but also a campus with international students studying international programs at a Vietnamese
yes,
university. So that's
yeah.
really my reflection on that.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good point, Bang. I think most of the countries within the Southeast Asian region, everybody's vying to be an international recruitment hub. And it's interesting to see that Vietnam is also looking at that. Um, just a question, not just a question on recruitment. Do you find that there is a national agenda and strategy for Vietnam to be an international regional hub for students? Is there a strategy very similar to perhaps Malaysia, who's been in this for a very long time?
Yeah. Well, I would say not yet, or not that I know of, or maybe it's already being discussed at, somewhere in Hanoi
Higher
that
level.
we didn't know yet.
Yeah.
But I do know that, of course, Vietnamese government and Vietnamese ministry continuously going all over the world to learn from the model. I myself looking at this in the moment, and I think like we are still at the very early stage of Malaysia. Of course, I envy that. So many IBC International Branch Campus in Malaysia, uh, and the student there have so many opportunities to choose for their study as well. And I think that if I say it here, definitely the ministry will say it as well. and they will
Be
be like,
careful what you say, Bang.
well, they definitely don't say the word envy, but they would say the word,
Yeah,
we want to be there, right?
yeah,
So that would be what I see, coming from our work consulting and giving, advice to our client as well,
yeah,
over here.
yeah.
Um, and so yeah, I can say yes,
Mm,
definitely,
mm.
but maybe not public yes.
Okay, thank you, Bang. Helen, I hope we can hear you better now. So can I just ask you, what are the biggest challenges in ensuring long-term sustainable partnerships in TNE? Oh, we can't hear you. We can't hear you, Helen.
Oh no, again.
Oh, we can hear you
Now we
now.
can. Now we can.
Okay, so I can say that from my experience, because I have in the academic operations for the international programs in 2000 and 2012. Yes, and
Mhm,
after that I moved to a positions of international relation and partnership. So from my experience that in order to build a long-term relationship with the Vietnamese university, that you must understand the concept here. Yes, because we have different system. We have the public system and we have the private system. So the public one and the private one, we are, let's say that we are running through different mechanisms. So sometimes it's very easy for the public university to make the decisions to cooperate with any university, but for the private university, it's another story. Yes.
mm,
And also that we have different standard.
mm,
Like I take for example with my partner. So this is the entry requirement they required. But
mhm.
this is what our students have when they finish high school.
Yeah.
It's not every time that it's not it's matching. Yeah. It's not because our standard is lower than their standard, but they're different recognitions. Yes, that's take a lot of time to explain and take a lot of time for our staff to do all our documentations. Like for application document for one student into the international program. So we have to do the booklet for one student. So it's take a lot of time. And
Mm,
obviously that our staff will feel very tired about
yeah.
that. Yes, and we will think of another solutions or another options about the
Yeah.
partnership. Is that so? Secondly, it is about the matching standard.
Mm,
Yes, and the third problem is that beyond that for the student in Vietnam, we have to take in consideration of the English proficiency of the student.
ah, yes.
Because English is not our first language. And now there is a good sign that the English proficiency of the student is increased day by day.
Mm,
However, at this moment, we have to take a lot of effort. Like when I recruit one student to the international program, so we have to take extra effort in order to get the student to reach that certain level of English.
yeah.
So either the franchise program here are is able to send a student in the last 2 year or the last in the next 3 year to our partner universities.
Mhm.
So it's not just matching about the curriculum matching, but the partner university also has to understand that we need to put extra effort in having our student with English. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Helen. I just wonder, I'm opening this up to Miss Yen, Helen and Bang. Helen, you mentioned those challenges. How do you think universities, international universities, can respond to that or help in making those challenges, less challenging? So say, for example, in the English proficiency aspect, what can they do in your mindset? What do you think universities can do to support that?
Yes, in my opinion, that because you already have a very good experience. Our partner universities have very good experience in teaching language for other people, as English is not first language.
Yeah.
So uh, they can have their presence here to help us as
Mm,
well.
mhm.
Yes. And also that another option is that you have your own English program. The partner university, you have your English preparation courses.
Yes.
So usually that when our student complete the first 2 year
Mm,
and their language proficiency is not reached to the certain level, and
mm,
they have to certify with their English preparation courses at our partner universities. So why don't we can deliver this
mm.
program in Vietnam? So we
Yes.
can have your program, our partner program, the syllabus. So our lectures can be qualified according to the qualifications. So we follow that, and by the end of the second year or the third year, we can certify, and our student can pass the English preparation courses as well.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's a really good idea because a lot of universities, when they're attracting international students who have English not as a first language, they would sometimes have English prep programs on campus. So we can actually do this in country. I'm mindful of time, so I'm just going to go to you, Bang, with another question. How can internationals institutions align their programs with Vietnam's national development goals?
Yeah. Well, I think I can come back to your previous question about the strategy, the national strategy here. Um, I think one of the advice that I normally, when it comes to this question, is that international institutions should start, let's say, try to seek for intelligence, and especially from the directives, the conclusion, and the decisions from the Vietnamese government. And you have to look for it carefully and read through it carefully.
Mm,
Um, my my view is that, sometimes um, we as a country, following a very structural framework where, all of the decision or the directives coming from the Politburo can basically put into execution only when it is put under a conclusion of the decision, because then it's clearer to everybody. So I can give an example is like earlier this year, like there is a decision 1600, and in that decision, they indicate a specific sub-objective for international education in Vietnam,
mm,
and in which, for the first time, they mentioned that by 2030, Vietnam should have two more international branch campus. Now,
mhm,
basically, this is the decision from the top. It
mm,
means that on the ministry, on the departments will start looking at, okay, so how can we do to make sure that these directives, this decision happening.
mm,
So that is one advice that I can looking at this is, looking at directive, looking at conclusion, looking at decision from Vietnam, because that's where you should go for. And I think that the second piece of it is, you need local insights.
mm,
I I myself experience, a lot of time, out of entrepreneurial, out of pioneering, you coming here, international university coming here, and doing their things. Just after 2 or 3 years, coming back and say, okay, we need to revamp our strategy, and then there's a lot, and then that just take more time. So my thinking around this is, looking at this, from a national strategy level, and then coming from there, coming here and find the right local insights.
Thank you, Bang.
Yeah.
I've just seen a question from our listeners here. So I just want to put this out to the panel. A question on regulations. Is capital investment from overseas universities compulsory for in-country delivery of TNE in Vietnam? So Ms. Hien or Helen or Bang, if one of you could answer that.
I can take as a first go. I think that you may know that the TNE here in Vietnam, we categorize different model like IBC, like a international branch campus, like MIT in Vietnam, or like a fully TNE, like a 3+0. So I'm not sure your question is for what kind of TNE model in here, because under the Vietnamese government, we do have in 2018, we do have the decree 86 that they mentioned very clearly about all the requirement and also the necessary that like a checklist you need to do here in Vietnam. So I think that we can find out, or maybe Bang can find out the link and send over to you for the information. And recently, just this year, after like a 6 or 7 years, we have the new amendment, Decree 124. So,
Mhm.
but under this amendment is mainly focused for the IBC, that is for the campus, foreign campuses here in Vietnam. So, Bang can send that link to you, but go over to that one, and then we can work it out what kind of delivery model you would like to do TV here in Vietnam.
Thank you, Ms. Hien. There's another question, if I can just ask again. One of our participants have said, in my experience of speaking to and engaging with universities in Vietnam, they do find that franchising and validation arrangements remain to be a preferred model for collaboration. Do you see any shift in this? As one of our viewers says, they're not in a position to collaborate in terms of franchising and validation. So would Helen, would you like to respond to that? Or Miss Yen?
I
Start.
think, yeah, I can, I can make it go, and then Helen can add later on. I think that you mentioned about the franchising and also the validation. Validation is more for the UK, like UK wishes. Because under the TNE, we have articulation, we have the foreign campuses, and we also have like fully TNE and validation. But I have to say the validation is somehow is not what it's okay for Vietnamese, because it's very easy. You just like see the curriculum, you mapping the curriculum and you validate. That's done, and then we can run the program here in Vietnam. But you know that under the MOET, the Ministry of Education and Training, they do have number of like a requirement for accreditation and quality assurance. So validation is more for the UK, but for Australia itself, we don't offer that kind of thing. We go directly with, we call the TNE. It means that either like a MIT campuses, or like the JOY program, we call the JOY program, like a 3+0 here in Vietnam. So, and franchising is what Vietnamese university they love. But again, the question is accreditation and quality assurance
Yes.
need to satisfy that kind of question, to make sure that there is no nothing like you go out of the margin to mismatch and then to misqualify the degree.
Yes, thank you, Miss Hien. I'm conscious of time, so again, Miss Hien, I just want to go back to you, if that's okay. What are some examples of successful TNE, long-term TNE, rather than that you have seen, long-term TNE partnerships that you've seen, Miss Hien?
Yeah, I think that recently Australia, we are doing number of promotion for TNE here. But in fact, the TNE from Australia to Vietnam, we start more than 20 years ago. I can give you two examples. The first one that is between La Trobe University and with Hanoi University. They set the partnership back to 2003, and at that time, I have to say that it's very new, like a definition for everyone. They just say that, oh, study La Trobe University degree here, and then you get this, and that's it. That is definition that we get, and we enjoy it because we get the international qualification. We don't have to travel. We don't have to pay a lot of money to living overseas, something like that, and the very affordable tuition fee. So I think that collaboration lasts for more than 22 years by now. And at least they are still in marriage. That is a good thing. And what they offer is more for the undergraduate degree and also and master degree. But the master degree already like finished before, I think, just at the COVID time. But we attract a very high number of the students to study Latrobe and Hanu. We call Latrobe and Hanu degree. That is the one in Hanoi. The one in Ho Chi Minh City, you might know about the Western Sydney University together with Ho Chi Minh City University of Economics with ISB, that is International School of Business. So it started like more than 10 years, I think 15 years ago. And they offer both like bachelor degree and also master degree. And from time to time, we are seeing very good number from that program attracted a lot of Vietnamese students to study because why? Because they still get the international qualification. They still enjoy the time they study at home, but with the friends, and they still like have some time. If they wish, they can spend some time, maybe 1 year or maybe 2 years, study overseas at the in Australia at the Australian university. So I think that is very main one. And the key thing I mentioned in here that is the tuition fee is very affordable. Uh, that is the key thing because Vietnam is very pricing sensitivity.
Yes.
So for anyone who would like to set up the partnership in here, you need to do very like a due diligence in terms of the pricing offer of for this program.
Thank you, Miss Yen. I'm just looking at one question on the chat, and I think this follows on quite well. We talk about the Len Le has asked, mentioning about sustainability, the ROI should be considered. So, what would you recommend to increase the recruitment results for TNE in general and articulation programs, in particular with the universities in Vietnam? So, most of the universities don't have a dedicated team to recruit students onto TNE programs. So what are your thoughts around that, to recommend the recruitment of students? Maybe, Helen, you might have an answer to this to start off with. Oh, we can't hear you, Helen.
Yes, from our university perspective, yes. Actually, that we have our own team recruiting for TNE program. So this is a very dedicated team. Yeah. So we actually that we have the dedicated team plus the recruitment team of the whole university for the local program at first. And I think that it's the same for other Vietnamese university as well. And usually we put in the term that Institute of International Educations in our international institutes or somewhat like that. And about the return on investment. So like I just said that we have public university, we have private university. It's very hard to say. However, totally agree with Ms. Hin. Our student is very price sensitive. So it's not just about return on investment. It's about how our student can afford that program. Yes.
Yes. So I think key here is that price point, knowing what that price point should be. And I think it goes back to the first thing that I think it was Bang that said is and yourself, Helen, it's about understanding the sector, understanding what the landscape is like. I want to go back to Miss Hien. I would like you to answer this to start with. We hear the words mutually beneficial partnerships, it needs to be something that both institutions can benefit from. So I want to ask you, Ms. Hien, how do we ensure that TNE partnerships are mutually beneficial rather than one side?
I think that I have to say that nothing can be ensured for the future.
Yes.
So to start from now on, you need to do like for example, you could like to do the partnership. You find a partner here in Vietnam. You need to do very like a careful due diligence or market research to start with,
Mhm.
and then that's cover everything like a market trend or demand or price or delivery arrangement or marketing operation or profit sharing as well. So I think that a lot of things you need to do, but and a lot of questions you need to answer, like a why, what, and who, and when, and how. But I have to say that one of the key things when you to make sure that you have the mutual benefit is that you should discuss in open and transparent manner, both
Good.
sides. You can share and consider the win-win. It could be good for both and for the long-term partnership, not only like one-off deal. And then you know that as Helen mentioned, that Vietnamese university play the key role for the recruitment. If you don't talk with them directly and you share what your concern about what might be very rich in the future, and then some kind of like uncertainty or maybe challenging that you are having with. So if you do not share with your partner, thing cannot make cannot cannot be happened.
Mhm.
So, and I think that do not set very high expectation from
Mhm.
the beginning. You know
Mm.
that the TNE arrangement it takes time. From the
Yes.
you meet to talk, and then you do the mapping, curriculum do mapping, and then you sign the MOU and then MOA, and then do the marketing. A lot of things happen. So I think
Mm.
normally from Australian, or maybe not only from Australia, but maybe from other country, it would take like let's say normally about 1 year to make things happen.
Mm.
Normally, yeah.
Yes.
And then also we know that a lot of change in terms of regulation and a lot of like support, also support from the government. So everything should be put everything on the table and discuss with your partner, potential partner about this one. And what I yeah, I think that that is what I would like to mention here, that talk openly, share openly, and then do and very transparent.
That's brilliant. I think you've captured that so well, Miss Hien. And I wonder whether trust is something that is important as well. So building of that trust, in my experience, having that openness is very important from the very start because as you say, Miss Hien, it's a long journey. And it's a relationship. And I think, just like any relationship, marriage or not, there is ups and downs, but you're in there for the long term. Um, Helen, I just want to ask you from a faculty point of view, what roles does faculty and staff development play in making TNE partnerships a success?
You have to believe me, that is very, very important because
Helen, you need to speak loudly.
yes, it's very, very important. Yes, because it's not just the one who directly in operation at the program. We
Mm.
have to have the synergy of the whole university as well.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, like we have inspections, we have the testing as a service. We have from human resource department. Yes, we have from the finance department. Yes, all university. It's not just on the Institute of International Education doing alone themselves, but we
Yes.
have to have the collaboration for all department of the universities. That's
Mm.
why, as you say, that it's very crucial to do the training and to have our staff understand what is a concept, how the program can be operate, how we can recruit for the program. And run in the same directions. Otherwise, we cannot do that. I take for example is that our normal program in the evening will end at 8 p.m. However, for some program, we start a little bit later and we end at 9 or 9:30. So somebody have to stay at the university to take care of the facility and so on.
Yeah.
So we cannot do that alone. Yes,
Mm.
that's why we have to train our staff, our member to for a whole university to understand how the program is running in very detail. Yes, like that.
Yeah, that reminds me of my experience. Getting that buy-in from the university, from top right down to the facility, the accommodation, for example, is so important. And it's not just the buy-in, it's also the cultural understanding of working with different countries. Do you find that on the Vietnamese side, that cultural understanding is very important of the partner university? So for example, Vietnamese institutions working with Australian universities or the UK university or US, Canada, there might be different cultural nuances. So how important do you think that cultural awareness training for Vietnamese colleagues? How important do you think it is?
Yes, because we have three partners at three different countries at the same time. So we
Yeah.
totally understand that. Like for the French partner, we have to write the email differently. Yes, for
Ah,
Malaysian's partner, the same story, but different story. And for the Lincoln, for the US program, and then a different story. Yes, it's
yeah.
totally different. Yeah, the same story, but different way of communications between partner. That's why we
Yes.
have to train our staff as well. Yeah, it's from a
Yes.
very simple story.
Yes, yes, and I think it
Mm.
works the other way as well. So it's for us who are not in Vietnam to also understand the Vietnamese culture. And can I just ask a question? And this is just based on my experience as somebody who's born in Malaysia and Malaysian at heart. There's no one culture in Malaysia because every kind of state or community within Malaysia is very different. Is that the same in Vietnam?
Yeah. Yeah, Miss Hing and Bạn, can you help me with this?
I
I
don't
think
But
think
that
Ho Chi Minh is people Ho Chi Minh, people in Ho Chi Minh different from people in Hanoi culturally. Is there any cultural difference, for example?
Yes, slightly. Yes.
to be honest, I don't really want to go down this road. Um,
Right, okay, I'll move on then, Bag. I'll move on to the next question. So I just want to ask you actually, Bang,
okay.
how do you see the future of TNE in Vietnam over the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, okay. I always try not to become a futurist. Um, but if we scale it between 5 to 10 years, I was looking at this as and I think that the trend is there already. It's just when it's going to happen.
Mm,
My thinking is there will definitely at least an IBC happening. There will be
mhm,
at least in the next 5 to 10 years. There will be more online or blended learning. There will be a chance where people want to look more not only into degree or certificate learning, but also for executive education. And it's growing. Like the like of I'm gonna join a course or certificate from a university from overseas. I can do it online, but then it will be certified from overseas. Um, and then the fourth one is that the the growth of the private sector, or in this case, the private universities and private institution, will be stronger. It's also because because they're private sector, and
mm,
they also now realize that they have more, let's say, resource, and
Mhm.
and better policy, because they're basically running it as a let's say a corporate world. Um, I think I will also come back to, I think, one of the question from one of our, I think, earlier question before, talking about the how can we recruit students from the articulation programs. My view, and I also experiencing it with some of our partners currently here in Vietnam as well, see is that we have to be transparent.
Mm.
And this transparent will have to happen within the next 5 or 10 years, is that we cannot try to have an in-country representative recruiting for a direct recruitment to the university, and then say that that person gonna do the same for these articulation programs, because
Ah.
that have two different mindset, right?
Mm.
Then a student who want to go directly from year one through an agent or maybe through direct application. Now you're talking to a student who's now currently studying in a Vietnamese universities. The conversation is completely different, especially in some case, they don't even know that they will transfer, because they are in a general programs, and suddenly somewhere we sign an agreement and we say, hey, we have an opportunity to go. That will be difficult. So I can see that the future of it is that we will soon having that type of how can I say it, that type of in-country reps who focus completely and solely into recruiting students from these TNE programs.
So that's more the articulation type of programs, I would
Yeah.
think.
Yeah,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
I think that would be it. Right now, we as an international university still mixing it out, because we say like, okay, it's direct recruitment anyway, but the context, the cultural, as you mentioned about, see, are completely different between these two. Between
Mm.
one who I will go from year one, and
Mm.
one who say I have the chance to stay as well if I
Mm.
don't decide to go. So
Mm.
that's needs a different type of in-country reps, so to say. So
Yeah.
that would be
So
my guess.
thank you, Bang. I just want to ask Miss Yen and Helen, um, do you think the demand for franchising will still be there? Is that something that will continue to grow? Do you see the demand maybe going down? What are your thoughts on that?
Helen, you want to go first or?
Go on,
Yeah,
Miss
maybe
Yen,
Miss
go on.
Hin. Yes.
I think that franchising is the very rising, I think, increase at the moment, especially from the top university here in Vietnam, because they are very comfortable and very confident about their capability to
Mm.
deliver the international qualification here in Vietnam.
Mm.
And that is the way they could like to improve their ranking, as
Mm.
Dylan said earlier. And
Mhm.
also that's why they can improve the capacity building also for their staff as well.
Mhm.
And they provide like they will promote further for the research as well,
Mhm.
because improve the ranking is cover so many things under that ranking.
Mhm.
And that's why franchising is always the needs of Vietnamese university at the moment, but it depends on the foreign partners whether you are able or you are willing to run that kind of collaboration with Vietnamese university or not.
Thank you, Miss Yen. Helen, have you got anything to add to that?
Yes, actually, that from my university, international strategy. So we focus on three activities. Firstly, on academic partnership.
Mhm.
Yes, like TNE program articulations, so on. And secondly is on the student and staff mobility.
Mhm.
Yes, and third one is on research and project development.
Mhm.
So this is three pillar, and
Mhm.
we for international strategy we have to do that. We have to move that three pillar at the same time. Yes.
Right.
Uh, so far from my university and think that other university as well. So
Mhm.
the TNE will enhance the capacity building.
Yes.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
and which is back to previously we have discussed that the objective of the Vietnamese university is to diversify the portfolio, and the second one is to enhance our staff and lecturers capacities. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Helen. There's a couple of questions here that I think we should answer before we go to our final question. So one question, if I can just summarize it, it's about market research. So the question is, how can a university get this market research about the demand for a subject, or the affordability, the fees that students are happy to pay. In your experience, I think perhaps Bang and Hien, this might be more for you to answer. What if an international university wants to do a market research before making an informed decision on whether they should come in and do a TNE partnership? Bang, in your experience, just very, very quickly, have you come across this before?
We did, and I have to say that within our folio we have that as well. We did, I think within Acumen in Vietnam, we basically did that type of research for at least 3 universities already. And right after that, we also supporting them into setting those up and making it happen as well. So I think there will be many organizations in Vietnam that can conduct such work, but I think we need to looking for the type of as a universities looking at organization that can executing the research and the recommendation that they put into it, and
Thank
so
you,
that would
Bang.
be my advice.
Thank you, Bang. Miss Hien, is this something that through Austrade you support Australian universities with, or you recommend companies?
Normally, for Australia, we don't do the due diligence. What we can assist them with the Australian university, that we assist them for the partner search and also for market research.
Yeah.
For the due diligence, we refer them to the professional consultancies consultant company to do this.
Yeah, thank you, Miss Yen. I'm really conscious of time, so I just want to quickly summarize before I hand it over to Audrey. I think I just want to say thank you for the conversations we've had today in your answers. For me, what I can take away from it is a one-size-fits-all approach won't work. I think the importance of having a really good cultural understanding is important. These TNE partnerships is never something that happens really quickly. It's a relationship that has to grow. Has to be built on trust and understanding in order for it to be beneficial to both sides, and in order for it to be something that lasts long. So Audrey, over to you to close up.
Lauren, thank you so much for that. I see we've one more chat question in the chat, which again, any questions we got, and we will try our best to answer when we send out some material. We'll also be condensing this into some further details that we'll send out. You'll also have access to the recording. Just give us a little bit of time to get that all together and we'll get it back out to you. But yes, I want to say thank you all so much for being here. Again, transnational education is sort of the top of everybody's mind. And again, what came through to UC is what's clear to me, that transparency from the get-go, trying to moderate everybody's expectations and planning long-term. And again, being very specific, being very strategic about what is going to work and how you're going to make it work and who you're going to work with to do that. So I think these are highlights for everything in transnational education, perhaps not just Vietnam, but it was great to have the context here for Vietnam. We got a lot of leads on the relevant research that we want to look for. And again, as promised, we'll at least put 1 or 2 of those links to some of the ministerial decrees out there, so you guys can read that on your own as you're figuring this out afterwards. So with that, a warm thank you to all of my panelists. Thank you so much, C, for moderating. It has been an exceptional time to spend here with you all. The audience, morning, noon, or night, we appreciate your joining us. This is just another one in our series of transnational education around the globe. We encourage you to watch this space. Our next issue essentially will be on India, and likely in May, but we haven't chosen our date yet. So watch the space. We'll make sure we get you those details as we get them out. Thank you again, everybody, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.
Oh, bye, everyone.